Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the next core value of those with old money values or people that are old money themselves, and that is etiquette manners.
Manners have been elevated and refined throughout the ages by medieval knights and Renaissance courtiers into codes of behavior, which dictate behavior regardless of circumstances. The closer you get to defining and adopting your own code that you live by, the closer you will come to being the perfect gentleman or perfect lady.
So I speak about etiquette and manners on my channel quite a bit. I absolutely love etiquette these days, which is interesting because I didn't like etiquette in the beginning. But etiquette is quite simple at the end of the day. It's just you thinking about somebody else's needs and wanting to come across as polite as possible. And I think that's why sometimes people think that, oh, I don't need to impress anybody, and so I don't need to practice etiquette. But really, wouldn't you want to be as polite as possible to the people that you're around? I don't look at it as impressing somebody. I look at it as wanting to be polite and mannerly. So really, manners are simple. It's just a common courtesy. But the thing is about common courtesy is also typically common sense, and common sense isn't so common. Therefore, we must practice a method of awareness in order to assess and analyze when we're needing to put these practices and these manners into place. Maybe you're somebody who naturally, culturally talk quite loud, and maybe this is a moment in time where you need to take stock of that and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be yelling all the time, or I do know that there's certain cultures that do speak quite loud, and maybe they're doing this on the public bus first thing in the morning. I think we need to practice a method of awareness and being hyper aware to the social settings that we're in, and then we're able to put certain practices into place. Now, here's the thing about etiquette. The more that you practice it and employ it is the more that you'll start to notice it around others. And one of the things that I'm learning in this book is that old money definitely notices those who have been educated and brought up to have manners and etiquette. But the thing is that you will never be considered as old money if you are rude or unmannerly. And I think we live in a day and age where there's new people becoming rich all of the time, and there's space for everyone in the world. But one of the things that I'm noticing between old money and new money is that those who are of new money, they don't have these core values set in them, and equally, you can often find that they're quite rude and quite demanding. The other thing that you'll notice about etiquette and manners is that I'm finding that a lot of movies that are more period dramas or are set in a different time, you'll notice that they are practicing proper forms of etiquette. So I've been loving watching a lot of Jane Austen's movies and stuff lately. I've never read the classics, I've never watched the classics, and as I learn more about etiquette, I have been noticing that in a lot of these period dramas, they are eating properly, they are sitting up with proper posture, they're practicing that proper etiquette, and it's been amazing to see. But it's been more amazing to see that I'm noticing these things. Now, you can also read books about etiquette. I've got 2 books on etiquette, both by Micah Meyer. If you don't follow her on Instagram, I will put her Instagram feed right here. She has very educational, but they're also entertaining. And so it captures your attention, and you do pick up quite a few tips and tricks when you do look at her Instagram account. She also has a finishing school. It is quite pricey, but if this is something that you are interested in and wanting to learn how to employ these pieces of manner and etiquette properly, then it might be something that you should look into.
Coco Chanel is rumored to have said that etiquette is for people who don't have manners. She might be implying that manners are common sense, and etiquette is the more technical aspect of doing things properly. You may not know which fork to use at a formal dinner, but if you're well-mannered, you may be forgiven. However, if you lack humanity, no amount of formal training in etiquette will help. Manners are incredibly simple, and on the whole, based on common courtesy and common sense, which ironically aren't so common. They only require practice and the awareness, which may come as a shock, that you are not the center of the entire universe. Try to be a lady or a gentleman and treat others politely, even in the most trying of circumstances.
So let's talk about manners and children. I don't have children yet, but a lot of my friends have, and there's definitely certain children that I enjoy being around a bit more than others. And I remember being a child and then meeting certain family friends when I was older, and they would always say, like, you and your brother were such a pleasure to be around. And at the time, when they would say it, when we were younger, we were like, we're just normal kids. We're just normal. And then now, being an adult and being around children that aren't as mannerly, I'm starting to see what those people saw in us. Manners must be taught to children, and the earlier, the better. But one of the real old money traits with this is that old money, or people that have old money values, they will often do their disciplining and their educating on manners behind closed doors, and it's not a public thing. My husband and I were in the grocery store maybe about a year ago, and this woman was right here and just started swearing. It was the grandmother as well, and just was swearing at her kids, like full swears, to like stop and get down. And the kid was being rambunctious, but it was so crass to not only hear the swearing, but like the level of volume that she was swearing at this child, like it was so jarring. And so since then, my husband and I have like kind of reflected on that, and it's like, okay, we probably will never be the type of person to be swearing at our child like that in public, but we are somebody that maybe, you know, we would typically like raise our voice, and that really doesn't come across in a great light either. And then I recently heard how Kate Middleton, if she's out with her children and they're misbehaving, she puts a hand on their head. And I don't think she like just does it, like there's a way that she does it, but she puts a hand on their head, and that signifies to them that they need to calm down, or they need to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing that's naughty. And so then behind closed doors, she educates them on that. Now, another thing that they talk about in this book is that if you are looking at educating your children on this and you're looking at doing it behind closed doors, perhaps throw like a fake dinner party and you get your children to dress up, you put out the plates as they should, and then you get them to act as if it was a real outing, almost like a trial run. And then you're able to educate them on the do's and the don'ts and kind of manage their behavior so that when you do go out in public for real, they're able to understand what that experience looks like and what's acceptable and what's not. Now, we've spoken about children a little bit, but let's just talk about the manners of people at home. Do you greet people? I have notes here that I'm always reading from so I can try and stay on task, but this just came to mind. When I was a child, when I would come into the house, I would have to say hello to everybody in the house. And I remember being young and just thinking it was so over the top and extreme. And if I didn't go say hello to my aunts and stuff, I got in trouble. And so now it's interesting because if my husband comes home and say he comes home and he opens a letter and then say it's important news and he gets stuck into that letter and he doesn't come and say hello to me, I'm like, rude. So yeah, make sure that you're greeting the people in your home. And I don't think that this is just a seniority thing. I think that if it's a husband coming home, go say hello to your children. Equally, if it's your children coming home, go make sure that they're saying hello to maybe their younger siblings. It's a matter of manners. Are you dressed when you're in the house, or are you running around naked? I don't mean butt naked, but I have gone over to people's homes before where, you know, obviously there's some level of intimacy there where you're being invited over, but then sometimes it's like, maybe it is a family environment, and even though it is an intimate space and you're welcome, I still think you should have clothes on. And so I think this is something that my husband and I have been practicing a lot these last few months, is that dressing nicely at home is a form of respect. Don't be in your pajamas all the time. Even if it's a young boy or your husband, maybe they don't need to be walking around without a shirt on. If you wouldn't invite people into your house like that, why do we feel like we should be acting like that in the house with just the people that we live with? The next thing that old money or people with old money values focus on is bonding over meals. So that means turn the TV off. This was something that we weren't allowed when we were growing up, so it's something that I implement in my day-to-day life now. But dinner or a meal is such a sacred thing, so see if you can actually bond with the people that you are breaking bread with. Are you having to excuse yourself from the table? I think, again, this is something that I was brought up with that I didn't realize not every family practices, but if you need to leave the table, don't just get up and leave the table, but ask if you can be excused. It's such a small little thing, but it does go a long way, especially if someone is in the middle of the story or someone hasn't finished eating. That is such a big one. Sometimes if my husband is like rushing to get to work, like he'll go to stand up and I'm not finished eating, especially if someone has cooked a meal for you, it signifies that you got to come and eat and now it's time to run, and it doesn't leave the host with a pleasant taste in their mouth. So here's some helpful tips to wrap up this video. Say thank you often. Mind your volume. Smile more. Get your elbows off the table. Speak clearly. Listen 2 times more than you talk. Don't gossip. Have something interesting to contribute to conversation. Get this by reading. Get this by articles. Don't solely rely on social media or television. Don't discuss your sex life. I'm gonna say it. Don't discuss your sex life. Don't be prejudiced or practice racism. Don't use profanity. And last but not least, if you're looking to practice proper manners and etiquette, it should be common sense, but these things, they're so common sense that we skip them. The last thing is RSVP on time. If someone sends you an invite, do them the honor of giving them an answer in a timely manner. Anyways, ladies, that is it for this video. I hope you join me in the next video all about the next core value of old money, which is financial independence.